So let's get practical now. How do we pick up the power that God's given us and use it in leadership, whether it's in ministry or in business? It really doesn't matter. It's the exercise of our personal power. How do we do this? I suggest that both in business and in ministry, we need to learn better ways of using power. But before we can get into that, there are some questions, 3 questions that we need to ponder about power. Answering these questions is critically important before we can actually pick up our rod and begin to use our power. And I want to suggest that we should use these questions kind of like Jesus did. He used questions in his teaching. So let's imagine that you're talking with Jesus about your business or your ministry or your leadership. And he turns to you and he asks you some questions. Here's 3 he might ask you. First of all, who owns your business? This is the first and most fundamental question. And if God really owns your business, and as a believer, that's where we need to turn to, then in reality, he's the boss and you're an employee. And that means that in your decisions and in your actions that you do in your leadership role, you are actually representing God in that situation. And you need to be reflecting his values. If you don't reflect his values and his purposes, then he, as the owner, has the right to come and deal with you. But this first one here is really important. Who owns your business, your leadership, your ministry? Here's the second question. And that is, how will you use power? Power can be reflected in 3 different directions. There's power over people. That can be considered dominion. There's power with people. And then there's power under, when you have to serve under someone. How are you to be using your power? Are you in a place where you've been put over other people? Do you have power over people? And how will you use that? Maybe you're in a team where you need to be collaborating. You're doing power with. Or perhaps you have to serve under someone who's maybe even difficult. And there's examples in the Bible of those who had to serve under people who did not use power God's way. For example, Joseph in the Bible had to serve under Pharaoh, not a godly man at all, but he had to learn how to honor God, and God exalted him in that place. Amazing picture. So 3 questions. Who owns your business? How will you use power? And then, can God trust you with power? Could you handle success? Because actually, success requires character to hold it, because success brings increased responsibility and it gets heavy. And success becomes a test of character. There's new temptations that come with this. And we have to wonder, and God may be asking you, to whose benefit would success accrue to? If he were to give you great success in your leadership, in your venture, whatever it is, who would benefit? So I encourage you to look at your worksheet that you have there in this course and make sure you really process these questions seriously and honestly. Because until you really ponder these 3 and get them clear in your heart and in your mind, it's very difficult to pick up your rod and to exercise authority in God's way. But next video, I'm going to suggest to you ways that you have picked up your rod, your authority, and you probably are already beginning to do things God's way. So this will be where we get really practical. How do you actually do that?